Now, I really like my new Audi S4. However, there are some problems with it. Now, the positive news is I can fix these problems myself. Now, one thing that's really annoying me is the back end of this car. Now, the paint, it's a 19-year-old car, so the paint isn't perfect, but there's a few things which I'm really not happy with. One being this area here. So there's rust coming from the boot lid, there's also rust around the brake light, and also the brake light is completely broken. So that needs fixing. Another area is the rear bumper. There's quite a lot of scrapes, scratches, and it's just very untidy. It really lets the car down and we need to sort it. So my plan is I'm going to have a go at doing some smart repairs. Now, I can paint, but I am self-taught. I'm no professional, and I've never really done blending, especially on a black car. So this is the perfect car to practice on. So I'm going to start by taking this light out and going from there. As you can see, it's pretty knackered. A little bit awkward, but we got there in the end. Now, I'm going to be honest, this tailgate is very rusty at the bottom edge, which isn't ideal, but they're actually quite difficult to get hold of. There's none on eBay for sale at the minute. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean it up the best I can, and then when I put the brake light in, I'll make sure I seal this bottom edge just to prevent the water getting in. That's all we can do, really. Eventually it's going to need a new one, but for now it's going to look all right. So start by masking up the area I want to clean up. I do this both to protect the paint and the glass. I then use a flat disc on a grinder to clean back the rust. So from experience, the key to this lasting is to remove as much rust as possible. This is a bit drastic, I know, but it does work. Right, now we're using some 180 grit just to feather some of this out and see what we're working with. So next job, I've just mixed some rust converter up and I'm going to apply it on the rusty area, just try and stop the rust coming back. I know it's going to, but every little helps. So this stuff basically has a chemical reaction with the rust and it's meant to kind of prevent it from spreading anymore. It's meant to like convert the rust into another chemical. Don't know what it is, but yeah, some people swear by it. I'm not really sure, but I've got it, so I might as well try it. Like I say, I will bond this in, so I'm going to put it in with some Tiger Seal to seal it up, and then I know water's not going to get in anyway. The rust is rusting from the outside in rather than inside out. No rust on the inside. So I'm pretty convinced if I get it right now, it should be okay for a good while. So as you can see, the chemical reaction is happening already. It's starting to go purple. Basically what we need to do is let it dry and I can start putting some filler on this and shaping it, making it look right. So as this is a smart repair, I'm going to use a heat gun just to dry it, make the job a little bit quicker. Right, it's dry now, so I'm going to mix some dolphin glaze up and apply it. Dolphin glaze is a fine filler or a putty. It's great for filling small areas and is much denser than standard filler, meaning you don't get the pinholes. I apply it with a steel applicator. I'm no TikTok star, so it never ends out looking quite as pretty as it probably should, but doesn't really matter. So next job, I've got some 400 Abranet cloth on a sanding block, and I'm just going to go over this area here to see how bad it is. Now I'm using 400 because I don't want to be too aggressive. With plastic bumpers, sometimes you can chip some paint off and the lot just starts peeling off, and we don't want that. So nice and sensitive, nice and soft. Let's see what I can do. So key's just to go in gently. Very different to metal. I sand down the other scratches and chips and then clean the area with panel wipe. So I've just mixed a little bit more dolphin glaze up just to go over these scratches, and now I'm going to cover them. Right, this has gone off, so I'm going to use a little bit of 400 just to start shaping this. Now, it might be too fine, this. I might need some coarser paper, but we'll start with 400 and see what it looks like. The trick to sanding filler is to constantly move the position of the sanding block. This way you don't end up with any low spots or high spots, and all the edges feather out really nicely. Once I'm happy with the way it feels, I move on to grey Scotch-Brite to give the rest of the area a good key. I then clean the area with panel wipe. Loosely mask up with folded tape for a soft edge and blow some high build into the repair area. I carefully use a heat gun between coats just to speed up the process. So it's day 2. I did get rained off yesterday. It's a lot hotter today. It's a bit windy though, unfortunately, but I'm going to carry on. As you can see, I did do a bit of the bumper yesterday. I sprayed that bit in just with some aerosol. Obviously it needs rubbing back and painting properly, but you get the idea. I'm going to continue doing this now with a DA sander, I think. I use a 600 disc. It's a 3-inch air-operated sander and I find it great for small areas like this. I do keep wetting the panel as I find it easy to get a good finish and it stops the pad getting clogged. Right, so I've gone over most of the bumper with some 600 wet and dry on a DA sander. Blocked a lot of this back, and then these areas here, for example, which don't really need any love, I'm just going to do that with some grey Scotch-Brite just to keep it up, but I'll do that when I sand it. So yeah, looking a lot better. I got rid of a lot of the chips and marks. There's still the odd minor imperfection, but nothing I'm worried about. A little bit there I got rid of. Again, top of the tailgate, a lot better. But yeah, I'm just going to finish this by hand to avoid making a mess, basically. Right, next job I'm going to do the centre of the tailgate. I wasn't going to, but there's a bit of rust there, and I'm not that happy with it. Badge isn't in very good condition. So yeah, I'm going to do it all, sod it, why not? Right, so I've measured the distance between here and here, here, etc. I've taken some reference pictures so I can get the badges on in the same place. So now I can remove them. I'm now going to use a toffee wheel on the drill to get rid of the excess glue and the foam, etc. And I can start sanding it down. These toffee or caramel wheels are great for removing double-sided foam tape. Generally, they don't damage the paint. However, I have been cut out before, so I wouldn't recommend one unless you're repainting the area afterwards, just in case. And as you can see, all the paint's come off here. It's not stuck to the primer, and I think what's happened is someone's put a replacement tailgate on this at some point, and they've not prepped it properly. That paint shouldn't just peel off like that. This could cause me a right issue. I might have to take the whole lot off. We'll see. I'm going to use a little bit of 180, which is a little bit coarse. I want to try and get rid of some of this rust and just see how bad it is. Right, as you can see, a lot of the paint has peeled off. But I'm hoping I've kind of got over the worst of it. I'm going to put some rust converter on these rusty areas here. I'm also just going to fill these holes in. Use the original plate holes. I don't know why someone's done that. Bit rough. And hopefully that rust won't come back then. It probably will, but hopefully it won't. I give it 2 coats of rust converter, drying between layers with a heat gun. Right, I'm going to do something a little bit crude now. Tap the centre of this in, just so it's low. Then I'm going to give that a skim of filler. A little bit rough, I know, but this is an old car and this is going to be an adequate repair. You know, it's going to last another few years, which is all we need really. This time I use proper filler as it's easier to sand, and as the repair is under the number plate, I'm not too fussed about the odd little pinhole. While the filler is curing, I start blocking back the tailgate with 600 Abranet cloth. I do this wet so it doesn't clog up. Once that's done, the filler's set, so I move back to that. I do the rough shaping with a 120 pad on the DA and finish with a sanding block ranging from 180 to 600 grit. I then remove the pad from the block and finish the curved areas by hand. Again, I do this wet as it doesn't clog. I then apply a few coats of high build primer, again using a heat gun between coats. So it's been 24 hours since I blew the high build in. Next job is now, so I'm going to mask everything off properly and then just sand down everything with some wet and dry. I'm going to use some 1200 and just give everything a key, ready for the base coat basically. So let's get started. This is a very time consuming job, however it is essential for a good finish. All I can say is take your time and try not to cut any corners, literally. If you get overspray on an area you don't want to paint, it could end up ruining the overall appearance of the finish. Once the tape's all done, I use grey Scotch-Brite and soapy water to clear everything. I pay particular attention to the edges to avoid paint peel in the future. Once I'm happy with that, I move on to 1200 wet and dry, again using warm soapy water to help clean the panel as I'm going. My apprentice makes a brief appearance to help, however it's a flying visit as he needs to go and repair his Cozy Coupe. I use a hose pipe to wash off the sanding scum. This helps keep an eye on what you're doing. The other benefit to sanding wet is you don't need to wear a mask as there's no dust. It's just much cleaner, but you will get soaked. I do anyway. So as you can see, this is all sanded off with 1200 wet and dry. I'm going to let it dry for 24 hours. Then tomorrow I'll put it in the garage and we can start putting some base coat on it. But so far, I'm really happy with it. So it's been another 24 hours, and as you can see, started to mask the car. Next step is to pull it in the garage. I'm going to put a big sheet over it, mask it all up properly, panel wipe it, and then we can start painting. I tend to use this plastic sheeting masking material now. It's static, so it sticks to the car a lot better than paper, and it's pretty cheap to be fair. It was quite a windy day when I did this, so it didn't help, but once I got some tape on it, it soon started to take shape. I then simply cut out the areas I wanted to paint and tape down the edges. I really like the look of a carefully prepared car just before paint, similar to that look of a freshly disked field. Now the masking is finished, I panel wipe everything a couple of times, constantly turning the cloth to avoid spreading any dust or particulates about. Then it's ready for paint. I'm using 1K base coat, mixed 50-50 with thinner. I give it a few coats with a few minutes to dry between each coat, and then move straight onto the lacquer. I give it several coats of lacquer, making sure to get it in all the nooks and crannies. From experience, the trick to DIY painting is to put enough paint on so you can sand it down afterwards and polish it up. No matter what I do, I always get dust in my paint. It is one of them things. So I just need to make sure I put enough paint on so I can work with it afterwards. Yes, I'm aware I haven't done any blending like I said I would. I decided to paint the whole bumper instead, but who cares? So that is pretty much the tailgate done. Now it does want a machine polish, a wet flat, that kind of thing. I haven't painted the top because I did have a reaction with the base coat. What I've done, I've left it another 24 hours. I've sanded it back a bit and I've just brushed a bit of high build on. I'll flat that and I'll probably blow a bit of high build back in. One of them things, we all make mistakes occasionally, but hey ho. So yeah, I'm really happy with the overall outcome. I'm going to do another video of titillating a little bit, just making things a little bit nicer, polishing things, etc, etc. But for now, I think it's finished. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you did, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more. See you later. Bye bye.